Hello everyone, this is All 22 and a few film review, giving you guys my top 75 board for the upcoming draft class, the 2025 NFL Draft, happening tomorrow. So this is a great guide to have for day 1, day 2, even possibly day 3 if some of these guys slip out. That being said, I think all of these guys we're going to be talking about have the chance to go in late second round, early third round at least, and above. Really like this class. Not going to be diving in super hard because 75 guys, so it's mostly going to be rattling off names, internal battles, if guys are having the same grade, kind of my thought process on that, looking at the class as a whole. So really hope you guys enjoy. Going to have the downloadable spreadsheet below so you guys can have this throughout the draft. Now, as we look at the class as a whole, it's a very interesting class. In total of my 75 board, we have 14 edges, 11 wide receivers, 11 O-linemen, 11 interior defensive linemen, 9 corners, 8 running backs, 5 safeties, 4 tight ends, 2 quarterbacks, and 1 linebacker. Now, that adds up to 76, sorry, but that's because I'm including Travis Hunter twice in that. As far as grades go for the class, like I said, at the bottom of this class, I feel like all these dudes towards the very end are at least going to be late second round, early third round grades. Of those guys, we have 16. Of true second round grades, we have 19. Bottom of... Should explain this a little bit. When I have a split on a grade, like a 1 to 2, a 2 to 3, I'll have those split into 2 tiers, which is the top and bottom half of that. For example, in the first round, if you're a top half round 1 to 2, you're someone that I think leans more towards a true first round grade, should go in the first round, but you might have some concerns, something to your tape, something that athletically that could really make you fall to the second round, and I could see you fall into the second round, more of a fringe first round player. And then the bottom half of that is someone more towards a second round grade that has something that could push them up into the first round, whether they're very instinctual, they've got great size and athleticism. You know, it's a weak position in the class, and, you know, they might just be the best guy, or it might be a weaker class overall, so they're being more pushed up towards the first round. Now, to come back to that, the bottom of the round 1 to 2 guys, the guys that are closer to actual second round grades but can make the first round, I have 11 of those guys. For the top half of that, the more true first round, but not a top 20 type, top 15 type first round pick, I have 14 of those guys. I have 11 with a true first round grade. I have 2 with a top 10 grade, a grade that among the average draft, if you got 10 draft seasons and you put this player in every single one of those drafts, among the average of those, I think they would go top 10. And then same logic with the top 5. I have 2 top 10 players, 2 top 5 players. So you could try to get some think in your head if you follow this class along at all, who's going to be where. If you paid attention to the offensive top 10s and top 5s, you already know who the top 5 and top 10 guys are. So, but you're going to see all the round 1 and 2 guys stack up, all the true first round stack up, because you saw that, but you didn't get to see their true grades or how they stacked on other positions. Now, this class as a whole, like we're saying, in total, round 1 to 2 guys, including the top and bottom, that's 25 guys, 19 true second round grades, and then in the top 75, 16 early third, late second round guys. So the value of the class is really in the second round. As you know, a lot of people have said throughout this process, if you include the top 5 and top 10 guys with the true first round guys, that's only 15 guys I'm really comfortable taking in the top, basically top 25, top 20. Those are my true first round guys that I don't think should fall to the second for any reason. Now, these rankings are regardless of off the field, like character issues, stuff like that. So players like Luther Burden, Josh Simmons are going to be a little bit higher than maybe what they would go on draft day because of those off the field character type issues. Without further ado, let's hop into the class. Starting with 75 down to 66 Counting down from 75 down, we got Jalen Royals, wide receiver out of Utah State, Jonas Savaiinaya, guard out of Arizona, Caleb Johnson, running back out of Iowa, Ariante Ursary, left tackle out of Minnesota, Mason Taylor, tight end out of LSU, Jack Besh, wide receiver out of TCU, Vernon Broughton, IDL out of Texas, Damian Martinez, running back out of Miami, Alfred Collins, IDL out of Texas, and Jacob Parrish, corner out of Kansas State. I do want to give a shout out to Trey Harris out of Ole Miss. He barely, and Demetrius Knight, they barely both did not make the rankings at a 6.39, just behind Jalen Royals, Jonas Savaiinaya, and Caleb Johnson at 6.4s. They're all kind of in a clump for me. Jalen Royals, Trey Harris, and Jack Besh. Jack Besh coming in with a 6.42, the highest one out of those guys, just because I feel like he gives the safest floor. All guys with a little bit of projection, all different kind of guys. Besh more of a true slot, but like I said with Emeka Mbuka in the wide receiver video, super safe in what he brings, super good hands, knows how to get lost in space, and really, really good after the catch. I just have a feeling you can put him in a offense right now, and they're just going to find usage for him. He can be productive, even if he's not ever going to be like a top 10 wide receiver or a true outside guy, in my opinion. Jalen Royals, a little bit safer than Trey Harris on the outside for me. Just showed a little bit more consistency, even if he isn't an elite athlete, an elite separator, just a really solid outside guy. Trey Harris definitely showed the highest flashes of them all, but a very limited route tree and just very inconsistent in his effort. Like, the flashes are definitely there when you see him, but you just don't see him a lot. Part of that is not his fault. Like I said, really limited route tree at Ole Miss, but would have liked to seen a lot more from him. Mason Taylor, someone I'm a lot lower on than consensus. Really wouldn't think he'd like kind of slot in, almost missing on my top 75, but just felt like the other tight ends showed a little bit more in routes or a little bit more in blocking, a little bit more after the catch, kind of mix of that. Damian Martinez, Caleb Johnson, also two guys that barely missed out. RJ Harvey with a 6.37 and DJ Giddens with a 6.35. All kind of in a similar clump of running backs for me. You could take any of those guys kind of mid to late day 2 or mid to late second round, early in the third round, and I would be very, very happy with that. Wouldn't be kind of mad with any one of those guys going before the other. All kind of offer a little bit different. Harvey more of a home run and third down kind of guy. Martinez is just a bruiser, contact look of a runner, got some decent space. Not the best athlete, but shows some like decent shiftiness. Caleb Johnson, just a really, really safe zone style back. He is a little bit more scheme dependent, and that lowers his grade a little bit. Not super explosive, but can separate to the second level and get you some dirty yards, just hitting people and falling forward. And then DJ Giddens, super nice flashes, but very scheme dependent. Just doesn't look like the same type of player when he's in zone versus gap. If he gets put in a gap offense, could be very good. Definitely a top 75 player in that aspect. The UT boys, I have very, very close together. Alfred Collins with a 6.45. Vernon Broughton with a 6.43. Alfred Collins is just a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, does a little bit more in the run game. And he's still athletic, even though he's at a bigger size. I just feel a little bit safer on him. We move on to 65 to 56. Counting down from 65 to 56. This is JT Tuimoloau, edge out of Ohio State. Savion Jones, edge out of LSU. CJ West, IDL out of Indiana. Omar Norman-Lott, IDL out of Tennessee. Elijah Arroyo, tight end out of Miami. Kyle Williams, a wide receiver out of Washington State. Nick Scordon, an edge out of Texas A&M. Benjamin Morrison, a corner out of Notre Dame. Prince Umanmielen, an edge out of Ole Miss. And Jack Sawyer rounding out this group at 56, edge out of Ohio State. This is a good group to have a little bit of an edge conversation about. If you paid attention to the top 10, I talked about Jack Sawyer, why he made my top 10. Just really, really high floor in the run. I think the way he uses his hands and his hips, the technicality in his game, I think he can translate it and learn to rush the passer successfully at the next level. Really wanted to put Umanmielen above him, but I just couldn't because Umanmielen doesn't like to defend the run. And although he does have an elite get off, and he wins with his Euro step and his dip and rip around the edge very consistently. It's kind of the only thing he does, and he needs to develop more of a bag at the next level. I have JT kind of at the bottom of this group here. Really nice floor, nice pocket pusher, but isn't going to give you really much of anything around the edge. And I think Jack Sawyer is a little bit better in the run game, a little bit smarter, so I have him kind of edging him out a little bit, especially because Jack Sawyer, even though it's a little bit harder to translate, he does win around the edge more consistently. And then Savion Jones a little bit higher than Tuimoloau just by smidge. Literally, the difference is 6.47 and 6.48. Day one, I would rather have Tuimoloau out on the field defending the run, pocket pushing, but Savion Jones also has a real NFL pocket push and flashes a little bit against the run, flashes the ability to win around the edge. So the ceiling is just a lot higher for a guy like Savion Jones, in my opinion. That's why I have him just a tick higher. Omar Norman Lott, CJ West, two guys I have very near each other, but just a little bit different in kind of style. The reason I have Omar just a tick higher is it's really hard to find really good, really nuanced interior rushers, and that's what Omar Norman Lott does. It's a little bit harder to find. CJ West still has some upside, but how far he has to go in the pass rush game, I think, is a little bit less than how far Omar Norman Lott might have to go to be able to defend the run. Elijah Arroyo, another tight end, kind of talk about him and Mason Taylor. I just think he shows more nuance in his route run. I think he's more reliable as a true separator, and he's got some very nice speed after the catch. He's got some good effort in run blocking. I think he does have a run blocking ceiling, even though if his floor is low. So I just have him edging out Mason Taylor by a tiny bit. You know, it's not like their grades are that far off. Mason Taylor 6.42, Elijah Arroyo a 6.52. So they're both second to third round guys for me. I forgot to mention everyone in the kind of up to Caleb Johnson range. Basically, these bottom three guys are more towards the back end of where I see round 2 to 3 guys. And then everyone from Ariante Ursary all the way up to Kyla Williams is kind of the top half of the round 2 to 3 guys. I have a lot more bottom half round 2 to 3 guys, but they didn't make the top 75. And also in this group that we're talking about, this is where we crack into the true round 2 guys, starting off with Scorton, Morrison, and Mamialan and Sawyer. I forgot to talk about Nick Scorton a little bit. I have him in the middle of these two groups. I like Sawyer's and Unmanmialan's film a lot better this year, and I think it might be on the same level, a little bit worse than Savion Jones, JT Tuimoloau. But Scorton just put on some great tape at Purdue. He's done it before, and that's why I give him a little bit of the edge over these other guys, especially because he's dropping weight. You know, if he can get back to what he was doing at Purdue, he's worth a lot higher of a pick than this. And then Ben Morrison, like I said in the corner video and the top 10 video, he's down this low just because not only was the 2024 tape not as up to par as his 2023, but back-to-back season-ending injuries at a position where you have to move fluently is just very, very difficult. You know, if the medicals come back good, he's worth a lot more than this, but I'm just a little bit nervous about him. Now we get to 55 to 46, counting down from 55 to 46. All these guys are still true second-round type players. Nick Emenwari, safety out of South Carolina. Braden Swinson, edge out of LSU. Tyler Booker, guard out of Alabama. Darian Porter, corner out of Iowa State. Landon Jackson, edge out of Arkansas. Quinshon Judkins, running back out of Ohio State. Dylan Sampson, running back out of Tennessee. Donovan Jackson, guard / tackle a little bit, Ohio State. TJ Sanders, IDL out of South Carolina. And then rounding out the group at 46, Andrew Makuba, safety out of Texas. This is a good little bit of a RB discussion and a safety discussion. Nick Emenwari and Andrew Makuba, it's funny that Emenwari is kind of at the bottom of the section we're talking about at 55, and Makuba is at the very top at 46, and they couldn't be more opposite type players. Nick Emenwari got elite size at 6'3", 220, 230, got at least elite testing at the combine, is just super raw though, you know, raw in his angles in the pass, raw in defending the run. But all the flashes are there. If he can hit his upside. You're talking about a potential top 3, top 5 safety in the league. And then Andrew Makuba, the exact polar opposite, a day one who I view as like he can come in and start, play for you day one, and give you really, really good coverage snaps. Probably the best overall coverage safety of the class, but very undersized and still tested well, but not like uber elite testing by any stretch of the imagination. Not like Emin Wari's testing. Sorry, going to take a sip of water here. Now, the reason I have Makuba up so much higher is, again, I think he is so much more day one ready. And for an undersized guy, I would be a little bit concerned. But he loves to hit. He loves to hit at the catch point. He likes to come in and defend the run. And for someone his size, his run defending technique isn't really that bad. I think it is playable at the next level. Not someone you're going to have in the box or, trust near the line of scrimmage that much. But if he's got to make a tackle, I'm not too concerned about it. Talk about the RBs here. I'm going to talk about Cam Scatabo, who is 45. He's right on the cusp of the next tier with Dylan Sampson, Quinshon Judkins. This is the start of my next running back tier. We had the one previous with Martinez, Johnson, Giddens, and Harvey. This one is Scatabo, Judkins, and Sampson. Judkins and Sampkins, 0.01 point difference on their grade. That just comes down to Sampson showing me a lot more juice, a lot more creativity, and still having, honestly, some decent pass protection. Not the most consistent hands, but still some wiggle in his routes. I think Quinshon Judkins is the quintessential safe back in this pick. Full-sized, good tester, powerful, shows shades of shiftiness, solid vision. Not elite hands, but you're not scared throwing him the ball on dump-offs and screens. And just needs to work on his pass block a little bit, but it's not enough to take him off the field. He is a very good back, and he still has a very good ceiling. He just didn't show me any creativity at the second level that made me get really excited about his film. There's a lot of running into dudes, which is cool to watch, but doesn't get you those 10-yard runs that turn into 20, or those negative runs that turn into 10-yard runs. Or you're breaking tackles through the line and you pop out, all of a sudden you're taking it at the house because people just weren't expecting it. He has that in him. He just needs to show it more. That's why I have Sampson a little bit higher. And then Scatabo, a little bit higher than those two. Just the elite contact balance, the smartness at the position. This is a technical running back with great balance and an absolute motor. You just can't go wrong drafting him, in my opinion. I don't care about the testing. Smart running backs with great balance and good contact balance, like to hit, see holes well. They make it because they're just great on first and second down, and Cam is going to be great on first and second down in the league. Talk about a little bit of these middle guys, Tyler Booker and Donovan Jackson, kind of like the Makuba and Manwari situation. Neither of them are extremely raw, but just different styles. Donovan Jackson, very fluent, gets off the ball well. You can trust him in his own scheme. Tyler Booker, just in the phone booth, just big, powerful guy, but does not move well. Still very nice in coverage, though, or not in coverage, sorry, in pass protection, though. He's not inept. It's not like he's going to be dying out there trying to defend some speed rushers. He might have a little bit of trouble, but I think he can hold his own. All these guys, again, true second-round guys. Really like this group of players, honestly. Just touch on Darian Porter real quick. If you want to hear more about him, go to my corner video. But for a first-year player, shows great film for a first-year corner. Uber athlete, tested very well. Very lengthy. He's got everything you want. And I think his best ball is just ahead of him. Now we get to the next group here, 45 through 36. Cam Scatabo, running back out of Arizona State, like we mentioned before. Tate Ratledge, guard out of Georgia. Jalen Knoll, wide receiver, Arizona State. Darius Alexander, interior D-line, Toledo. Shador Sanders, quarterback, Colorado. Shamar Stewart, edge, Texas A&M. Jalen Walker, edge, Georgia. Kevin Winston, safety, Penn State. Xavier Watts, safety, Notre Dame. And Tyleek Williams, interior D-line, Ohio State. Already talked about Cam Scatabo a little bit. Not going to get too deep into him. I'm going to talk about two fun edges in Jalen Walker and Shamar Stewart here. Two guys that Probably been talked about the most out of everyone in this class as far as edges go. Shamar Stewart and Jalen Walker start my tier of round 1 to 2 guys, where they're closer to second round guys in my opinion, but show stuff that's going to get them boosted up in the first round. Shador, Darius, Jalen Noel, Tate Rowledge, Cam Scatabo at the top of my true second round grades. Shamar and Jalen, man, very two different players. Shamar, someone who doesn't know how to finish but knows how to pressure, super long, uber athlete for his size, and has great size and length. Someone who I was going to evaluate as an interior guy until he decided to drop like 25, 30 pounds off his listed playing weight at the combine. So I was like, all right, he's playing edge. Someone that won a lot more with power than bend around the edge. So I was very surprised to see him want to drop that much weight and kind of want to bend the edge more. He likes to try to win around the edge, even though it's not really much in his tool belt. But this guy, like we said, elite size, elite testing, got strength. If he's dropping that much weight, maybe you could start bending the edge a little bit. But this is like the absolute kind of epitome of a non-productive, developmental, but absolute, this guy looks like an NFL player pick. These guys go in the first round because of the upside. The NFL values length, power, testing. They really like athletes that are big and strong. So these are the type of guys that go earlier, even if their tape doesn't 100% warrant it, like in my opinion, with a Shamar Stewart. Jalen Walker, I just have this low because tweeners scare me. It's one thing to be positionless, like I mentioned in the defensive video with Jahdae Barron, where he could play slot or safety for you fluently, fine. You don't have to worry about either. And then he could even flex out to corner for you if you need him to. Or if you're in off zone, I feel just comfortable with him playing outside corner for you. Jalen Walker, you need to have a plan for him. You need to decide, like, okay, we're teaching you linebacker, or we're teaching you edge, or we're going to teach you to be a sub guy, like a rotational type guy. But you need to have a plan, because he's someone that might not make it at edge, and he's someone that might not make it at linebacker if you don't put him in the right scenario and you don't have him really focus learning one position. Someone that scares me a lot. He definitely, has really, really nice flashes winning around the edge with elite athleticism for a rusher. Still, for an undersized guy, having power in his hands, but super, super raw still. Like, something that doesn't get talked about enough with Jalen Walker is the length he still needs to go to learn to be a successful edge rusher. People just talk about his get off and his strength in his hands. And yes, he has everything to be a top edge rusher in the NFL. But this is a guy who still doesn't have a nuanced bag, who still doesn't know counter moves, who flashes very nice hips on blitzes and sometimes in the rush, but a lot of times still gets ridden out along the outside because he still doesn't really know how to rush the passer fluently yet. Invites people in the run off the edge and allows people to block him. There's a lot to learn. He has everything to be great, but a lot to learn. Sorry, very long-winded. Very interesting player there, very controversial player. Xavier Watts, Kevin Winston, very good safeties right next to each other in terms of grade, right on top of each other on the list. Xavier Watts just put on so much good tape. Not an uber athlete, but so smart. This is going to be a good safety at the next level. Kevin Winston, I have him a tick lower just because he only played 2 games this season. There's a lot more projection, even though I think he's still going to be really good. Shador, this is where he falls for me, right at the edge of a true first rounder, or a true second rounder for me, almost hitting that round 1 to 2 cusp. I talked about Shador Sanders, pretty decent length in the QB section of the offensive video, but I think he has a little bit more to go day one to be a good starter in the league. Everyone thinks that QB is a surefire, like some people are going to be surefire good picks. Everyone thought Bryce Young was a couldn't miss prospect. Now Bryce Young is playing a lot better now, but the first 2 seasons looked really rocky, and some organizations might have moved on from him at that point. Quarterback is not a surefire position, even though I think Shador Sanders has the potential to have a good career in the league. Not the highest ceiling, but I think you could put him in the right scenario day one and still have a pretty competent, good quarterback. I think he still needs to go to the right situation. A guy that dealt with a lot of screens, RPOs, and when he wasn't dealing with those, it was a lot of half field reads where he wasn't having to make full field reads. And when he was, there was an internal clock in his head that was going, and that's when I found a lot of the kind of errant scrambles and pocket bails. I still like Shedeur a lot. I'd be fine if someone took him in the first. Quarterbacks that are of this caliber in these classes are going to go in the first. I think he could still have a good career in the league. I just think he's got to go to the right situation. If he goes to somewhere where they're not helping him with the offense at first, if he's having to make a lot of full field reads at first, there isn't a lot of schemed up reads for him, a lot of easy kind of throws to get his confidence going, get his feel, and get him up to speed, then it might be a little bit ugly early, and that might hurt his confidence and hurt his development. But still a lot of potential with Shedeur to be a starting quarterback in this league. Now we get on to the next group, 35 through 26, counting down from 35 to 26. We got Alec Ayo-Maynor, wide receiver, Stanford; Kenneth Grant, interior D-line, Michigan; Josh Connerly, tackle, out of Oregon; Micah Williams, edge, Georgia; Savone Ravel, corner, ECU; Trey Amos, corner, Ole Miss; Walter Nolan, interior D-line, Ole Miss; Travion Henderson, running back, Ohio State; Donovan Ezaraku, edge, Boston College; Gray Zabel, interior lineman out of North Dakota State University. This is where we start getting really into the round 1 to 2 guys. Right after Trey Amos, where we hit Walter Nolan, is the more towards the true first round grade guys that might fall to the second for any number of reasons, whether due to class or injuries or something that just is really scary to me, or like one hole that might be really scary to me in the tape. But I really like this group of guys. Let's get into the conversation about IDL here. Derek Harmon, kind of like Scatabo before, is the first guy in the next tier up, so I want to talk about him with Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, and kind of Tyleik Williams, as I didn't touch on Tyleik Williams in the group before. Really love all these interior guys. If any one of these guys were to go before the other on draft day, I wouldn't really hate it, depending on the scheme fit and who took who. I have Derek Harmon up top because someone who just has so much flexibility. He can move across the line for you, athletic, has power, has production, has decent run tape. Just got to get better on a down-to-down level at not getting moved. A little bit more consistent at hitting home, even though he does it at a very high level. I just think the way it's translatable needs to get a little bit more consistent. Really love him. Walter Nolan, someone that should be a lot higher and can go a lot higher, probably will go a lot higher, depending on how teams feel about the off-the-field stuff. He's just got to work on the down-to-down consistency in his effort and seeing the game better as a whole. And I think he would be so much higher, someone with the best flashes in this entire class. If he went in the top 10, I wouldn't agree, but I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't trash on it, again, depending on who took him and the fit. But someone who has all the upside of the world. People do not move like him. People do not move people like him. He is just really good. Just needs to see the game a bit better, but a really, really good player. Trey Amos, Savone Ravel, I've talked about them a lot, as I have the same grade on both of them. Savone Ravel, a little bit more upside, coming off an injury from a smaller school, but elite. Would have been an elite tester, has good size. Trey Amos, just rock solid corner, great in every sense. Just a day one guy that could come into you and just give you some good play with the upside of just being an above average corner that can really just match up with almost anybody. Might have a little bit more trouble with the uber elite guys, but that's my really only knock on Trey Amos. He's really solid. Travion Henderson, someone I have in his own tier of running backs, slightly above that last tier we talked about with Scatabo, Quinshon Judkins, and Dylan Sampson. I have him in a tier of his own below Omarion. Actually, I can't even say that. It's Omarion Hampton and him in sort of a tier, a little bit far from each other to be a tier, but I would still group them in the same tier with Ashton Jeanty being in his own tier. Really like Travion Henderson. Everything the NFL looks for, he's going to go really early. I don't know if he sneaks in the first round, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did. Someone that people are really split on, but he has what the NFL looks for, which is home run ability, the ability to stay in on third down so you can disguise your looks more often because he is an elite pass protector. And it's not like you can get by with him pass protecting. Like, no, he is really good at pass protecting, and he's shifty. He's creative. That's what teams look for. Doesn't put the ball on the ground often. Creative and shifty at the next level. Home run hitting ability. Decent contact balance. Can protect you. Needs to work more on how he uses his hands, but still can give you some in the receiving game, being an outlet. He's got some shiftiness in his routes. Not a true down the field route runner, but again, he can give you stuff on all three downs, has home run hitting ability. The NFL is really going to value him, and I value him a lot. Another little bit of an edge conversation with Mykel Williams and Donovan Ezeraku. Ezeraku, an absolute gamer. I think people don't credit him enough for his run defend tape. Not like it's elite, but you could play him three downs and feel fine. People, he's a little bit undersized, so people are like, oh, run defending, but he's got long arms, he plays with good leverage, and he's got a solid base. He can set an edge. He's not going to be an elite run defender, but he's fine. And he's the ultimate technician rushing the passer, maybe outside of Mike Green, because Mike Green has a more power aspect to his game than Donovan Ezeraku. The only real knock on him, doesn't have a great power element to his game, but wins in every other sense. Really like his game. Mykel Williams, another guy whose run defending floor kind of doesn't get talked about well enough. Another guy who plays with decent leverage in the run, has got a decent base, really long arms, decent shed technique. Not an elite run defender, but again, someone you're going to feel comfortable playing three downs at the NFL. His rushing upside is all ahead of him. Someone who played for I a lot, someone who played injured throughout the year, still showed some bend. Really nice hand usage, even though his plan isn't very nuanced. I think he's got less to go than the guys we talked about below him. Or like less far to go to hit his ceiling than the guys we talked below him. Gray's able, out of North Dakota State, but super good, man. Really quick off the line, nasty in the run game. Really decent feet and pass protection. The fast feet can match well. The hands come out late and wide in pass pro with him. That's going to hurt him a lot. Is he's not consistently landing first against Colorado and FCS talent. That scares me a little bit at the next level, but even when he's not landing first, he can still drop his weight and anchor super well. So I really feel good about Gray Zabel. You can plug him in any interior spot and just feel great. You can plug him or slide him out to a tackle if you need to, but I see him more as a guard. He'll lose the edge a little bit because he can get a tiny bit latchy at times. He likes to lean, and his arms aren't really exceptionally long. So I feel better about him as a guard, but still a really great player. Now we get to 25 through 16, counting down from 25 to 16. Derek Harmon, interior out of Oregon, who we talked about. Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan. Omarion Hampton, running back, UNC. Jaden Higgins, wide receiver, Iowa State. Maxwell Hairston, corner, Kentucky. Will Johnson, corner, Michigan. Matthew Golden, receiver, out of Texas. James Pierce Jr., edge, out of Tennessee. Emeka Ibuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State. And at 16, Luther Burden, wide receiver out of Mizzou. Got all these wide receivers in a clump here. Higgins might surprise you, but I have all these guys in a clump together. Really hard to discern these receivers. Luther Burden, I feel like he doesn't get enough credit as a three-tier separator. I think he can do that at the league. Still gives you a lot of juice and a lot of yak opportunity. I feel really good about him. Emeka Ibuka, I have him just a tiny tick below because Emeka Ibuka, like we talked about with some of these other guys, just super safe, crisp, fluid, super strong hands, gives you some yak, likes to run block, going to be really good in whatever slot role you put him in, and he can flex out to the Z for you. I really like him. Just hard for me to put him lower when I think his floor is so high, and it's not like his ceiling is super low. Matthew Golden, really hard for me to put him under these other guys, but it's not like he's far off. He's got the same grade as James Pierce, and he is 0.01 below Ibuka, 0.02 below Burden. Just a little bit less tape to go off with Matthew Golden. It looks really nice. Separates well, good ball skills. he just scares me a tiny bit. I still like him. Like, I still think he's going to be a really good C at the next level. I don't think he's going to be a bad player. I still think he's going to be a starter for you on the outside. I just feel a tiny bit better about Ekbuka's floor, and I feel a tiny bit better about Luther Burden's ceiling. That's really all it comes down to. And then Higgins, I love Higgins, man. In a class where there's not a lot of X's, this are X receiver types. This is an X receiver type that I think can separate at all three levels for you. Again, like I said in the wide receiver video, not a jack of all trades, but kind of like if you're going off of playing card rationalities, not a jack of all trades, but like a king of all trades, like not elite, but just really good at everything. More nuanced than some of these guys in his class. I really, really, really like him. But some of these, this edge, James Pierce, I would put in a group with the guys we talked about in the last group. Wouldn't put him in his own standalone group. Maybe I put him in a group with Mike Green. He's just kind of in between the Mike Green and the rest of the guys, but I really don't think he's like a standalone. Very interesting player. I think he's dealing with a little bit of prospect fatigue and the mix of off the field concerns trying to drop him. I can't find a mock draft that's putting him in the first round anymore. And this guy is more nuanced as a rusher than everyone we've talked about below him. Wins with speed, wins with power, isn't going to be a 3-down run defender, or like a super basey like 3-down run defender, but a splash playmaker off the backside. I still really like James Pierce. I still feel really good about his pass rush potential. Don't know why people are starting to feel a little bit more icky about him. Maybe it's the off the field stuff, but still want to talk a little bit about him because, man, he's really good. And then Colston Loveland, I put him in a tier with Tyler Warren. I think he has the ceiling to be with Tyler Warren and above Tyler Warren. Just needs to get a little bit more consistent as a run blocker right now. And as good as everyone calls him as a receiving threat, and he is a really good receiving threat, don't get me wrong. For the tight end position, someone who's going to be taking a lot of shots over the middle, I would like him to hold on to the ball through contact just a tiny bit more. He's got great ball skills, he's got good vision to see the ball through hands and still look it in. He can track the ball. He's got great pluck ability to high point. Just through contact, I would like to see him a little bit more. If he was a more consistent run blocker, even though he is a really high effort in run blocking, I think that is a part of his game of the future. I would like to see him be more of a consistent run blocker right now and consistent catcher through contact right now. If I'm spending a first round pick and at the tight end position, especially, he's going to be getting a lot of snaps. And I would just like to see a little bit more 3-down consistency in terms of being an inline guy. Still really good, really like him. Now we're going to move on to our next tier. Actually, talk about Will Johnson, Maxton Harrison a little bit. Talked about the switch up in the top 10 videos. Will Johnson, I just feel like he's going to revert back to his 2023 self the more I get into the 2023 tape. Not a true first round player for me because some of the athleticism concerns, had a season ending injury this year. It's going to be dropped a little bit, but he's right there. I still think he's going to be a really good corner in this league. Feel really good about him. Maxwell Hairston just moves different, man. I think he doesn't get enough credit for how good he is in coverage right now. Even though he is a little bit undersized, he's not afraid to defend the run. It's kind of like Nate Wiggins last year. I don't think he's as aggressive and good at defending the run as Nate Wiggins, but they're both undersized guys. And since they're undersized, it's like, they can't defend the run. He still can. He still likes to. It's not like it's out of his game. I'm not going to trust him to do it on a down-to-down basis, but it's not like he's totally inept in the run by any stretch of the imagination. So, quick little chat about them. 15-6. This actually works perfectly because right at 15 is where my true first-rounders start. So, everyone we're talking about from this point on, I have a true first-round grade on. Starting off with Cam Ward at 15, Jahad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama, Kelvin Banks, tackle out of Texas, Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia, Josh Simmons, tackle, Ohio State, Jahdae Barron, corner, Texas, Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State, Mason Graham, interior out of Michigan, Mike Green, edge out of Marshall, and Will Campbell, tackle out of LSU. Now, none of these guys I have given top 10 grades. None of them are top 5 grades. These are all true first-round guys that I all see. You know, they can go top 10 in a class like this, but I think in the average class, these are all guys I'd be comfortable taking, you know, right at that 10, 11 range down to the rest of the first round, but not the bona fide blue chip top 5 or bona fide top 10 type of guys. Cam Ward, really like Cam Ward. I think his floor doesn't get talked about enough. Someone who, yes, is developmental, but they made him make full field reads, and they made him actually call protections. And there is flashes of him playing on time. These are all things I think he can do. Yes, he holds on to the ball a lot, but I don't think he gets enough credit for the flashes he's shown playing on time and actually doing full NFL quarterback stuff. I really like Cam Ward, but he's right on the edge of a true first rounder for me. Like, as low as you can possibly get for a true first rounder, but he is still a true first rounder. Still has a lot to work on, but I really like Cam Ward. Jahad Campbell, same grade as Cam Ward for me. I really like Jahad Campbell. I'm a little bit lower on him than others. It's just about being able to get off blocks and defend the run. That's, you know, he's going to be a linebacker. You got to be able to get off blocks and defend the run. It's only going to get harder at the next level. It's only going to be faster. The speed of the game is only going to be faster. The guys are only going to be bigger, stronger, faster. He's still a great player. I trust him in a lot of situations. Still a true first rounder, but that is why he's towards the end of it for me. Kelvin Banks, Josh Simmons, Will Campbell. Talk about the rest of the left tackles. Will Campbell, the most athletic, nastiest in the run. Might have to slide in the guard, you know, but I'd rather let him fail at left tackle first because he is so technical. He does have such a good base. He is athletic. I'd rather let him fail at left tackle first. Josh Simmons would probably be higher than Will Campbell if he didn't tear his patellar this season, and he did it like halfway through the season, so it's a little bit scary. And as someone who has played offensive line with patellar tendonitis in both knees, now didn't break the patellar tendon, but was, you know, still dealing with patellar issues, it sucks. Constantly having to be in a 2-point or a 3-point dealing with knee issues sucks, man. I cannot stress that enough as someone who's dealt with it. It is tough. But really good, fluent pass protector with a good anchor. Likes to get after it in the run and is an athlete, so you can trust him in either scheme. Has some off-the-field concerns too, apparently, just coming out. Gotta love draft week, so, you know, he might fall a little bit, but whoever's scooping him up is getting a great player. And then Kelvin Banks, just super solid and technical. Not overly strong, not overly athletic, but someone who works his hands and his feet very well and has a good anchor. Just someone who's very, very solid. I would be surprised if Kelvin Banks was a bad tackle. He's like one of these guys who, like I said, isn't overly strong or overly athletic, so people kind of question whether they can play tackle, but he's so technical, I think he's going to be fine. Mason Graham, someone who still cracks the top 10 for me, but not a top 5 talent, not a top 10 talent to me. Like I said, in a class of question marks, this guy is just super safe, super technical, knows how to use his hips with his hands, which is super important, and he's got really lightning quick hands, recognizes blocks, recognizes schemes, sees the game well. This is a guy who might not ever be a perennial all-pro type player, but someone who you're going to plug him in and not have to worry about him for probably a decade, because the way he wins is translatable to the next level. Jahdae Barron, someone who I have with Tyler Warren. I just feel a tiny bit safer about Tyler Warren because he's so versatile in the ways you could use him. Not super nuanced, but shows enough nuance, quickness to separate for his size, and someone who can catch the ball through traffic, has excellent ball skills, is great with the ball in his hands, has sneaky athleticism for someone who's 6'6", 260. He's just a true inline tight end. A lot of people don't like his run game, but he has all the strength and decent technique right now. He has better technique than the guys we've already talked about, so I feel good about him being able to do it. Just the sky's the limit for that guy. Mike Green, love Mike Green. Go listen to the Edge video. I talk about him for like 10 minutes, man. He's super good. undersized, but has a power and speed aspect to his game, has a good base for his size, so I feel good about him against the run. Not elite, but good enough to play in 3 downs. Really like these guys. And then now we get to the final 5 group. We're going to start off with Tetaroa McMillan, who I have at 5, just on the fringe of a top 10 grade. True first round grade. To get a top 10 grade for me for him, I just need to see a little bit more effort, strength, and drive in the run game, as well as consistency, dealing with contact throughout the route. I think he does well against press at the line, but contact throughout the route. If he just had a little bit more in those, as well as like the obvious, not the best athlete, if he just had upgraded those, he'd be a top 10 for me, even without the athleticism. Just right on the edge. And then we got Ashton Jainty, number 4, with a top 10 grade. We have Armand Membu at number 3 with a top 10 grade. Abdul Carter at number 2, top 5. Travis Hunter at number 1 with a top 5. These guys are great. Tetaroa McMillan is starting to fall. I get people are scared, about a freshman year interview where he was eating food, looked uninterested, and was before he was dominant at the next level. You don't need to be an ultra film watcher if you are super good at the nuances of your route. You train like an animal and you're just good at what you do. Puka, if you listen to Puka talk about football, he doesn't pay attention to it a ton. Let's just say about that. But again, still someone that's extremely good. Tetaroa McMillan, I still feel great with. He's more nuanced than basically anyone we've talked here. Knows how to attack space super well. Excellent ball skills. Can pluck off the high points super well. Has all the length. Good against press. Sneaky separation for someone his size. You might not think he's a separator because of the athleticism. He can still separate. Not going to be a deep burner, but could still separate vertically off the line and still threaten deep at least. Really like him. Ashton Jainty, only thing keeping him from top 5 for me is just overwhelming home run ability. He can still take the ball the distance, and he's almost perfect in every other sense of the game. But if he was a little bit more consistent in pass pro and, ran in the 4.3s, then I'd probably have him top 5. Still has the ability to hit home, but it's not like overwhelming elite home run ability. Again, a running back getting a top 10 grade. Still insane, still my number 4 player. But that's why he is at number 4 with a top 10 and not a top 5. Armand Membu. I might be the highest Armand Membu fan, and I'm fine with that. I watched him lock up basically every edge rusher that I watched in this class. Someone who is 6'3 to 6'4, but is still 330 pounds, so he's just built like an absolute tank. And even though he might not be as tall as some of these other tackles in the class, he still has over 33-inch arms. Combine have him at 33.5. Combine actually measured players' arms like short this year. So they might be longer, still over 33, so he's got enough arm length to play around the edge. Flashes strength in the run game and has a great anchor. Had 31 reps on the bench. So he has all the strength in his body, even if he's got to translate a little bit more of it to the game. It's there for him. Was one of the only players in NFL history to run a sub 5-second 40 at over 330 pounds. Still technical in his feet, in his hands, nasty in the run game. I don't get why he isn't so high on some people's boards, man. I love Armand Membu. I love everything about him. Still only, and not to mention, after everything I just said, he's only 20 years old right now. All the ceiling in the world. Uber athlete, strong, uber tester, young. He's super thick, and even though he's short, he has long enough arms, so he has natural leverage. He's just everything I want in a tackle. Likes to get after it in the run game, like I said. Love Armand Membu, man. Love Armand Membu. Abdul Carter, you've heard everything about Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. I'm not going to talk too much about these guys. Both have top 5 grades for me, just different. Travis Hunter, different in his versatility. He's my number 1 ranked receiver, a tiny bit over Tetaroa McMillan, and my number 1 corner by a decent bit over Will Johnson and Jahdae Barron. He is just super versatile. Moves, not super insane deep speed, but moves differently in terms of change of direction, start and stop. knows how to manipulate space, knows how to close space as a corner. As a corner, he's going to suffer a tiny bit with physicality. Like, he's not a top 5 pick at receiver alone or a top 5 pick at receiver or a corner alone. It's just together as a prospect, he is top 5. I do worry about him impress a tiny bit at corner. He would allow separation physically. He does like to allow space underneath. Still super good in every other sense. Super good eyes, ball skills. Likes to contest at the catch point. Clicks and close super well. Can recover space and close angles off really well. Super nice trigger in zone. Like, really like Travis Hunter. Abdul Carter, just a different mover off the edge. Someone who's a first-year player at edge, but still more nuanced than most of the edges we've talked about in this class, outside of maybe a Mike Green or a Donovan Ezeraku. Like, this guy just has multiple moves, shows counters, can convert speed to power. Absolute game-changing, elite get-off, has bend, gets his hips through off the edge. Like, it's hard to go wrong with Abdul Carter. Just a little bit undersized, needs to see the game from the edge a little bit more. You know, a first-year edge. He still likes to knife in the run a little bit, but if you could teach him to be a little bit more disciplined in the run, like, this is a bona fide number 1 pick in my opinion. Really, really, really good top 2 players right there. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, I'm going to keep the spreadsheet down below for you guys to download, so you guys have that to look through and kind of look through day 1, day 2, maybe even to day 3. Some of these guys fall. Kind of reference how I had these guys graded. Let me know what you guys think, who I have too high, who I have low. I love to discuss these things. I'm not going to take anything personally. I love to discuss and hear what other people have to say, challenge my opinions. Really like this class. The value is in day 2. It's going to be a really, really fun day 2. Really fun class in general because there is so much variety and variability in a lot of these guys, how people see them. I love this class, man. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Keep on the lookout for the predictive mock. Going to be coming out shortly after this one. Thank you guys. Have a good one.